Welcome to the PT Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful marketing strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. We have another great episode today, so don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, here's your host, physical therapist, marketing expert, and CEO of Practice Promotions, Neil Trickett.
Hi, and welcome to the PT Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful marketing strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to talk about how you can get your practice to go more direct to the consumer and empower your practice's marketing. And I'm joined here today with our special guest, Dr. Andrea Sotirokos. He is a CEO and owner of Solutions Physical Therapy in Alexandria, Virginia, and a longtime client here. Has been awesome to work with him. So welcome, Andy. Great to have you on the show here.
Thanks for having me, Neil. It's great to be here.
Great. So, hey, can you tell our audience a little bit about your practice and kind of your story?
Yeah, so we're one location practice here in Alexandria, Virginia, owned by my wife and I. And our company started in 2009. And we're a small 1,300 square foot clinic, just 2 PTs. And then by 2014, we had 6 PTs in that same small space. And I'm not sure how we made that work, but we did. And we eventually moved across the street into a larger location there in 2014. Then we ran out of the room again. And so in 2020, in the spring, we expanded by leasing some space next door, knocked down some walls, and took over that space as well. And then we recently just signed a lease for our second location. We hope to have that open in the first quarter of 2022.
Awesome! Congratulations on that expansion. You know, it's always kind of that similar story of expansion that I hear from other practice owners. I went through it myself. You kind of get to a point where you're so crammed in your space, and then you're like, okay, we got to make that leap. We got to go to that next space and get that next space, whether you go into a bigger space or you get another chunk. For us, it was we couldn't get the suite right next door. We had to go like a door over and work with that for about a year until we were able to build out a bigger space and then finally be able to move into that. So it's a similar kind of story. It's great to hear that. So again, congratulations on your success.
Thank you. Yeah, it was interesting. We had we sometimes felt like you were walking across bodies, and just had to keep telling people, look, we're expanding. So we're going to get there eventually. And fortunately, we didn't have to do it that long that people weren't getting angry at us, but they understood.
Yeah, totally. So obviously there's some ways to make that success happen, and you've definitely done it. And so, one is obviously giving amazing care and getting great results with your patients, but then it's also about being able to attract new patients with, good marketing there. And so, have you changed your marketing approach over the years from being physician focused to a little bit more direct to consumer?
Yeah, so I think we're fortunate that we always kind of had a bit of that direct to consumer mentality. We always looked at physician referrals and we marketed them as well, but we kind of always had a little bit more of a consumer focus than some practices, just kind of the way we started off, I guess. Word of mouth was always very important for us, and so that was one of the things that we really wanted to make sure was clear, was that, hey, that we've got a good reputation in the community. And we also started doing some injury screens at running stores very early on, local races and 5Ks, those kind of things. So that was kind of where we started. We did some direct physician marketing, but we kind of got lucky a little bit that we had that great word of mouth coming out for us. And that was really what got us rolling. As we grew then, we quickly realized the value of online reviews. For us, it started off as more just got kind of clinician pride, right? We wanted to see what people were saying about us and make sure that it was good. And so, back in 2010, 2011, Yelp was big then, right? Yelp was the online review place to be. So we started really checking to see what was going on, and we get notifications when we got those Yelp reviews. And if one was slightly less than what we wanted it to be, then we were upset and took it very personally. Um, and I think that was one of the keys to us was, just having that pride in our practice and wanting that reputation. So as we grew, we started trying to actively pursue those Yelp and Google reviews. As we saw that the more of those we had, we saw that we were coming out better in search results. We could see that maybe there were some competitors that had their online, page would come up in the search results, but then, we would come up, our Yelp page would come up, our Facebook page would come up. So is that by virtue of having more exposure, we felt like we were doing better. We wanted to really try actively to get those things. And then I think, over the last couple of years, particularly, we've really tried to improve our sophistication a bit more. We've kind of got a fairly complete map of our customer journey, how they get to us, and we're building KPIs for each step in that journey that we want to try to monitor to make sure that we're not losing out in any one area. Google Ads is something that we started adding about a year ago with you guys, Neil, and that's been very helpful for us. And then we've got some very deliberate patient reactivation strategies that we use. We use email campaigns for that, and some other methods as well to stay in touch with our current and former customers. So it's been a gradual kind of process and evolution, but I think we've continued to improve, and I think hopefully we're going to continue to improve as we grow.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I think what you just said there at the beginning was that you had that mentality of, we have to get more well known. We have to be able to go more to the consumer, to the public. There's a lot of untapped potential there, and not just relying heavily on physician referrals. Let's face it, that's the way the world has just changed over the last decades, right? I mean, there's more and more acquisitions of hospitals and physician groups and a lot of in-network referrals. So it's up to us to be able to go more direct to that consumer. And let's face it, if you ask someone on the street, who would you go to for a back problem, they're probably not going to say physical therapist right away, right? So we've got to do more of our job here in PT to just keep making ourselves more and more well known. But I think you saw that at the beginning with your practice, and you went for that. And I think what you did really well too was focusing on your public relations, which is making your good works well known, right? And you did that through knowing you had to collect reviews, going through Yelp, going through Facebook, going through Google online reviews, and the more you can strengthen that, the more, like you said, you build trust with the people who are coming in from the get-go, and they're going to choose you over either another place or even another solution to help them with their pain or problem. So kudos to you for that. And then also, I think you really brought up a great point there in about direct to consumer. It's not just about brand new patients, right? It's not just about that. You have a huge gold mine in your patient list, and that will continue to grow as you service more and more patients over the years. And you're very deliberate about your campaigns to your patient list, right? And reactivating those patients and keeping that word of mouth going. And that takes work and deliberate marketing action. So I think you do an amazing job of doing that. So kind of looking at this approach that you've done over the years, like how has this impacted your practice and growth?
So we're definitely in a highly competitive market here in Alexandria, Virginia. We have a ton of, of local, regional, and national competition in our market. Also a very highly educated market. And we have to recognize that consumers, while they may, a physician may directly go one place versus another, in the modern environment, consumers don't necessarily take that at face value, and they're going to do their own homework a lot of times. And without direct to consumer marketing, I don't think we'd have grown to where we are today. With all the other competition that's out there, everyone, especially your regional and your national competitors, are all marketing to physicians. They're all marketing to consumers now too. But if we're not doing that, then someone else is, and we're going to lose business to them. And so I think that's something that's just been if we had not done that, we definitely would have, I think, gone in reverse and didn't be doing less business than we are now, and definitely would have impacted our ability to grow.
Yeah, and you're so right there. And it's about it's really about you're speaking to your audience, right? And I think identifying your audience, and you knew that your audience in that area is more sophisticated and they're looking for choices. They're doing their research, they're doing their homework, they're looking at reviews. So you went after that, right? And making sure that you could speak to them in that way. And I know where our practice was near West Palm Beach in Florida, that was more seniors. And so they still had the white coat syndrome, and, what the doctor says goes. So it was a bit heavier in physician there, but also then in our direct consumer, like, most doctors choose to send here, right? So that built the trust that way. And funny story was, for a while, we just, had our regular PT garb, polo shirt, khakis, and sneakers, and you'd make recommendations and they wouldn't listen. Be like, well, my doctor told me to do such and such. So what I did was I went and got white coats for all our PTs with their name embroidered on it. And magically, all of a sudden, they were the doctor, they listened to them. And just that one thing, that white coat, made a big difference in how they trusted the PT's recommendations. So
people are psychological, not logical, right?
Yeah. So again, knowing your audience, right? Knowing how to connect with them, very, very important in your marketing aspect. So kind of talking about this, like, why is it a good idea for practice owners not to rely so heavily on physician referrals?
Yeah, I've got, I think, two really good stories that I think demonstrate that. One impacted me very early on in my career. I was just starting out as a physical therapist in Pennsylvania for practice. And it was a good thing that we had one of our referral sources with the primary care physician, who anytime a patient would come in for the annual physical and they had any type of pain, he would give them immediately a PT referral. So, hey, you got to go to these guys for physical therapy to get this taken care of. And that was great. So the problem was he was a large percentage of the business. And at some point, his wife decided she didn't want to live in Western Pennsylvania anymore. And so they moved and went out of state, and it was a massive hit to the business. And so we had to go out and start trying to hunt for referrals and do a lot more legwork to get those patients in the door. And so that really kind of, hit home to me early on, the risk that you take by having one large referral source be a large piece of your business like that. And then, in our current practice, we're coming out of the pandemic here, summer of 2020, one of the local orthopedic groups, and we still have a great relationship with them. They didn't have their own PT at the time, but they opened that in the summer of 2020. So we were trying to come out from the pandemic and come back, and then also had to fight, this our ortho group, who had been a decent size of our referral sources, opening their own PT practice. And so fortunately, we had always had a fairly diverse referral base, but there was definitely an impact there. And so, once we saw that happening, we were able to really ramp up our direct to consumer marketing and, learn some new strategies and got better at what we were doing. And, it's had a non-impact on us at this point. We're back to exactly where we were pre-pandemic and everything. So I think that those two stories really, to me, kind of are great examples of the risks that we take by just putting all of our eggs into the physician referral basket. I mean, they're definitely important, and it's a great way to get business, but we've got to, diversify our risks and diversify our patient base to be successful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Great advice there. Absolutely great advice. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, and there's still a lot of PT clinics out there that might be 50% or more dependent on physician referrals. And so I think we all have those horror stories of, having a lot of referrals coming from one doctor, and things are good when that's happening, but then something happens. Like for us, it was a neurologist that referred 50% of our business, and then 1 week stopped referring because he had opened up his own PT clinic, and ouch, lost 50% of your business overnight. So we all have similar stories out there, but it comes back to diversifying your risk, right? And I always say that if you, in your practice, if you can have 50% or more of your patient volume coming from, reactivated patients and word of mouth, like 25% coming from, internet marketing and things like that, and then you're like 25% or 20% coming from physician referrals, you're in a very stable environment with your practice, and you can get things happen out there, but you're going to be good. Whereas if you're 50% reliant on physician referrals, again, things can happen, and then you're putting yourself in a higher risk category. So great advice there on that, Andy. And so, what kind of things do you do right now to market your practice direct to consumer?
So we do a couple different things. We, our website has a big role in our direct to consumer marketing. I think one of the things we talked about earlier is you mentioned trust with your potential patient, right? And people want to buy from trustworthy sources, and so the Google reviews have been a big factor for us. We've really made an effort to make sure that we try to encourage our patients to leave us reviews. That's been a big help. Think about from my standpoint, if I'm going to buy something online, I'm going to look at, even if they both have 5-star reviews, I'm choosing between service A and service B. Service A's got 10 reviews, service B's got 200 reviews. Well, I just feel like that just feels more authentic, that they've got, I have a higher chance of getting what I'm expecting, of getting that same 5-star service, and that person who has more reviews. So we really try to continue the reviews that we've been getting. Our website, we really try to make sure that we're optimized from a search engine optimization standpoint, and Practice Promotion does a great job of that for us. We're always in the top 3 when we do searches for our practice, which is super helpful. We want to be at the top of that page so that we get seen by more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when people get to the website, what is our website doing? Is it, yes, we want it to be informative, but ultimately at the end of the day, we want it to encourage people to call or submit an online appointment request to try to schedule an appointment with us, right? And so we want to make sure that we're measuring how our website is doing in that regard as well, and that's really important for us. Mm-hmm. The Google Ads has been super helpful for us as well. I think as we saw, even prior to the pandemic starting, we saw more people advertising online in the physical therapy space, and it went from maybe in the early 2010s, we'd see maybe no ads when you search for physical therapy, and then you'd see 1 ad at the top, and now you're seeing 2 or 3 ads at the top. And so if we're not competing in that space, then people aren't even going to get down to us in organic strategy. So that was one of the reasons we felt that was really necessary to move into. And then the community side, we were always participating in health fairs. We're involved with some local high schools and gyms in injury prevention and rehab capacity. And then there's also several wellness events in our community that we participate in each year as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So doing a lot of great things there. And, kind of coming back to what you're saying with the website and the reviews, they kind of tie together in this whole experience for someone who's, checking you out. And let's face it, a lot of people now who are discovering you're online, they may not even have a prescription. They may not even know that much about physical therapy. They've heard of physical therapy, but they may not know, like, why would I go see a physical therapist? And then they see something pop up online and they go start checking it out. So your website has to do the job of really connecting with them and showing them, yes, you have these pains, you have these problems. Here's what we can do to help you, right? And really sell that. So, with our funnel, the way that we always look at it is it's that online discovery is a huge component of just getting you in front of all these opportunities in your community. So your SEO from your website does a role with that. Also Google My Business, and then internet directories and things like that really help you get up there. And then, as you say, you've got to pay to play today, right? You see your competitors up there on Google Ads. If you're not doing Google Ads and doing it right, then you're not having those opportunities that a lot of your competitors are. And let's face it, again, it's not just the PT down the street, it's the orthopedic doctors, it's the chiropractors, it's even pharmaceutical things that would say pop up there. So you're competing against all of that, and you've got to make your clinic well known. So Google Ads can help you basically own more spots on page 1 of Google. And that just means you're going to be in front of thousands more people in your community and just have more opportunities for those people to start to engage. And then once they're through to your website, that is your online storefront. That's your brand, right? That's how people interact with you. They're going to do that next phase, which is build trust. So does your website build trust? Does it build confidence? Are you showing, the great successes that you're having in the clinic and showing that? And then the reviews are going to help you also portray that success and that 5-star service that you're talking about through that. So critical to focus on the Google reviews. And I think, and maybe you might be able to talk to this a little bit, Andy. In your clinic, what are some of the things that you do to have your staff help ask for reviews?
Yeah, we used to do more of that. We actually do a lot less of that than we used to. We get a lot more organically, and then we've got some automated systems that we use to try to encourage that through some email campaigns that we do. And so, it's interesting. We've actually been more successful, I think, with the automated stuff, because physical therapists in particular have a tough time feeling like they're selling something, right? And it's challenging sometimes to get them. They want to get people better, and it's challenging sometimes to get them to ask for things, ask the patient to do something extra. I think the front office staff, if they're not crazy busy, are better at that than the physical therapists are. And that's not a knock on physical therapists in any means. It's not in our wheelhouse sometimes, right? So we've created some automated systems that we use that have been very helpful for us in generating those.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to have the systems. And if you don't have that, then you're, again, missing a lot of opportunities for those reviews. I think it's a balance, right? It's a balance of, do you have the systems in place to be backing up and asking for that? And then do you have tools within the clinic and training actually to help the PTs ask for them, the front desk to ask for them? One of the things that we do is a rack card with QR codes for your Google and your Facebook reviews. So it makes it less intimidating for a therapist to just say, hey, great to hear that you're doing so well. Would you mind leaving us a review? Here's how you do it. Just give them the card, right? It takes
patients
a lot.
Patients do like that too. And patients like it too. It's right there. They're sitting on Game Ready or Ice or whatever. Oh, it's easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, one of the things that with your focus on going direct to the consumer is the community events. You got to get yourself out there. You got to connect with the community, and it's always about who you know, right? So I'm sure at these events, you start to meet people within the community that have influence. And then obviously that can foster referral opportunities from there. And so what were some of the things from like the high schools or the gyms that you found to be kind of successful in developing referrals?
Yeah, I think consistency is important. Consistency of not just starting that relationship, but maintaining and reaching out and making contact. And then we have had good success with injury screening a lot of times. We just kind of on a regular basis will offer these kind of free injury screens, and we will we're not afraid to give away a little bit to get back, I guess. So we'll oftentimes give away some, hey, I'll spend some time doing a quick screen, and we'll say, here, you should try these 3 exercises. Get their email. We always get something back, right? So we get their email back so that we can then do some type of follow-up in 1 to 2 weeks to see, hey, how are these things going? So we tend to try to triage people down 1 or 2 paths, either hey, this is something that I think you could probably just work on, and here's some exercises to try, and we'll follow up with you. Or, this is something that's complicated. I think you would really benefit from physical therapy, and here's why, and then try to get them to schedule for initial evaluation. So we kind of have those 2 strategies that we look at, kind of pathways, I guess, when we do these injury screens, and that's been fairly successful for us.
Excellent. Great. Yeah. And coming back to our Google ads here, I know that you were one of our premier partners when we started this and helped us kind of test out a lot of the campaigns, and appreciate that and what we've been able to develop over the years there. I always say here, Google ads is incredibly complicated, and it takes a lot of work, continuous work, right? And I think that it's an area where sometimes practice owners can get a little disenfranchised that they tried it and it didn't work. And it can be just all kinds of settings that just weren't put together right, and you can easily blow a lot of your money, right, on Google ads if you're not doing it right. So I think there is just looking where you can make it very specific to what your needs are, and then what's going to resonate the best with the audience in the market, and being able to dial in the audience and things like that. One piece of advice I would just give for practices thinking about Google Ads out there is definitely work with, some experts. Give us a call if you need help with that. But the mechanism, what most people do from Google Ads is call, right? So the way that you structure the ads, the way that you need to track things has to be from a call perspective. And we've worked on some call tracking that's been pretty successful there, and able to see, what if it's a new patient, reactivated patient, those kind of things that are coming through. But if you go with the mindset like, oh, my Google Ads are going to generate more calls than say in a form request on your website, then you can get a lot more out of them. And so,
yeah, and I can speak to that too. I think prior to, it was very fortunate timing whenever you reached out about the Google Ads, because we had been doing some of our own, and we spent a lot of money without a lot of return on them, and it's you really need someone who knows what they're doing, and that's their job, is to specialize in how to optimize for these things, because it's very difficult to do on your own, in my opinion. Based off my experience with it. So having someone that knew how to run these effectively was very helpful for us. And then I couldn't agree more with the phone calls. I think that's where the majority of the success has been for us, has been on the phone call side too.
Yeah, I would say too, because I know that you do this. I know that you do training, that you've done training with your front desk, and I would really encourage other practice owners out there to do that. So if you are going to do more Google Ads, then just expect a lot more phone calls happening to the front desk, and they have to know how to sell the service, right? They know how to be able to get someone in who's just inquiring about things, right? And be able to really start talking to them and get them to immediately start pulling out, oh, what's your pain? What's your problem? Tell me a little bit more about that. And then that's when that translates into the actual evaluation appointment being made.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the other thing that I think is really, really important to, hopefully everyone's doing this, but it's easy to have it fall by the wayside, is making sure you're actually tracking how they're getting to you too. So we ask the question, why did you choose us for physical therapy? And we always get that on every new patient that comes in, and we track that data. It's really important for us. And we could see when we started the Google Ads, that our percentage of people that were coming from Google as a total volume of new patients definitely increased, which was telling us that, hey, these are definitely having an impact on our new patients coming into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good that you do that, and really just keeping on that with the front desk. It gives you a lot of data. For sure. I would say too, like just as a tip for other practice owners out there, when you are training your front desk, if you can have them ask the question, how did you first hear about us? That can give you some insights into what was it that they first saw that started down the path. Because let's face it, no one typically would make a choice or a call off of a first impression. They're going to do their research. They're going to figure things out. So it might be like, oh, a friend told me about you, and then I looked up your reviews and blah, blah, blah. Or, I got one of your pieces in the mail, or, whatever it was. If you're able to glean some of that initial information from that one question, which is, again, how did you first hear about us? That can help kind of paint the picture of what in your marketing is working for you.
Yeah, that's great.
So Andy, here, you've done a little bit of social media advertising too. Can you tell us a little bit about, your experience with that, what kind of campaigns you've run, or, things that you figured out with that?
Yeah, we've dabbled in that a little bit. It has not been as successful for us as Google Ads have been. And I think, again, this is something that, how you structure the ads, I think, plays a big role. How you target them plays a big role. The nice thing about the social media advertising is that you can kind of really target who's seeing your ads very well. The downside is that if people are searching for you on Google, they're searching for physical therapy. You want their service. They're more of a hot, engaged lead, right? Whereas on the social media side, you're putting your ads up in front of people who maybe more likely to need your service, but maybe they don't need it right now, or maybe they don't know they need it. And so it's kind of, they're not as warm of a lead. And so our return has not been as good on those things. We did one campaign where we tried to get people in for free screens, and we did not have a lot of success with that. That was, what we found was a lot of times people would just not show up for the free screens, and so we quickly got rid of that and stopped doing those kind of campaigns. And then we did some other campaigns purely to try to generate some leads with some free information that we're giving out. And those were more successful, but still not to the level that we thought justified the expense. So we stopped doing those, and we're looking to some other strategies now that we're going to start trying to implement potentially into the new year. We've got to try to fine tune some of those things to see how we want to do them to make them hopefully be the most successful we can.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I think Facebook advertising can work differently for different clinics, right? And I think you've just got to kind of test it out there. Again, it's one of those things where you need some help on that. There's complexity to it, and knowing how to dial in the audiences. We work with Breakthrough Physical Therapy Marketing, and they have a great Facebook program with workshops and things like that. But I think it's a different media. I mean, at the end of the day, you're competing with cat videos, right? And so as people are scrolling through their feed, you got to realize like you got milliseconds of attention span there, right? Yeah. So to me, it's really more about just awareness and very high funnel, like low level leads, right? You got to just be there. So it's taking those low level leads and then doing something else with them to get them more educated, get them more warmed up, like a workshop or seminar or some kind of intro call or something where they can just start to get some more information. But it's a great way to kind of get general awareness. So they are good, but I think again, where people can fall into a trap is like, they might say, hey, I'm getting a boatload of leads in here, but at the end of the day, they're tougher to convert, right, into actual new patients coming in the door. Whereas, I think it's part of your whole sphere of direct to consumer marketing, where you do need to make sure that you have obviously website SEO, Google ads, that whole kind of online discoverability. And then you're utilizing social media to get broader awareness. And then that can help if they see, an ad on Facebook and they look up something and then all of a sudden your name pops up on the Google ads and then, on the rankings there, then there's a higher chance that they're going to take an action with it. So I think where people may fall into a trap is if they think that that's the one thing that's going to solve all their problems. In marketing, it never is, right? It's a collaborative approach from many different angles.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. I think you're exactly right. It's one piece of the strategy. It's another way to have your name out there, but it's not going to be like, from our experience, it's not something that's going to be like, oh wow, I'm going to start doing these, and now all of a sudden I've got this massive amount of new patients coming in. It's another piece that adds on to everything else.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your new clinic, right? You're opening a new clinic here. Congratulations on that. And so
thank you.
What's some of the things that you're starting to think about with opening a new clinic and getting new patients in there?
Yeah, so I think first off, we want to continue to do more of what we've been successful with already. So particularly on the digital front, using our search engine optimization that we've already got. Continuing our email, continuing to grow our email list for our email marketing is really important for us. The other good piece of it, I think, is just how we selected our location. We want to make sure that we select a location that had a little bit of some overlap very intentionally with some of our existing patient and referral base, so that we're not just trying to start from scratch and reinvent the wheel. We wanted to be able to leverage our existing relationships on the physician front and the patient front and community to help to get that new clinic off the ground. So that's something I think it's really important for us. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously we're going to start running some Google ads when we're ready to open that location up. But also establishing those relationships is going to be key. I think relationships are everything in this business. So getting out and making sure that we can leverage our existing relationships, but also develop new ones in the community is going to be really important for us going forward.
Cool. I love your philosophy there, how you're really thinking about the selection of the location with a bit of overlap. I've heard it so many times that, practice owners, when they're going to go for that next location, third location, whatever it's going to be, they start thinking about, oh, I got to be across town, right? I got to be, far enough away here that I'm not going to cannibalize, this clinic. The reality is, like, you can really, like, springboard off your current clinic and get that other one really rolling. And there's going to be plenty of people in the area, especially, up near DC where you are. There's definitely enough population to support that. So I think that was a great philosophy that you've gone into that, and that's going to be, a lot of success. Another piece of advice here I would just give to clinic owners too, from that next leap into, again, if it's your second location, third, fourth, fifth, whatever it is, and you probably have a bit more experience by the time you get to your fourth or fifth location and making it all roll. But with opening that new location is its own business really in Google's eyes, right? And so it takes some time to get that really, ranking up there. Google Ads definitely helps with that. But also from a business perspective, you have to look at, and I think this is where some people get into trouble, is they don't put enough marketing budget towards making that new location really go. The overlap part helps. And then just realize that, like, in that first year of business, because it doesn't have that much of a patient list to draw off of for reactivations, it needs more marketing budget. So typically, a marketing budget in healthcare industry is about 8% of gross revenue. And that might be a lot more for a new clinic location. It might be 15 or 20% of that clinic's first year budget. Revenue generation towards marketing budget. So that's where, sometimes you'll see it with multi-location clinics where they'll have some clinics locations that are just underperforming. And then they're reliant on the one or two locations that are the primary ones that have always kind of held it from a revenue standpoint. So, and that's when we'll get a call at practice promotions like, hey, I'm doing okay overall, but I've got these one or two locations over here that are just struggling, right? And it's just because they never really got the marketing budgets for those particular clinics really up to where they needed to be to get them off the ground and really humming along. So just a piece of advice there for anybody else out there that's, adding additional locations or buying out additional locations to really make them go, if you're not acquiring them, if you're starting them from scratch.
I think that's great advice. I think, that's the way we want to approach it is, remember how we acted when this was a startup, right? Like, it's a startup again, right? And so we're going to treat it as a startup and not kind of, just kind of rely on, hopefully the name brand from the current clinic, but, really get out there and try to grow it as aggressively as we did when we were starting our first location.
Yeah, I love that. So any final thoughts here for our audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would say is just don't be afraid to fail and experiment with different things. We spent a ton of time and money on things in the marketing world that didn't work. I shouldn't say a ton of money, but we definitely spent money on things that didn't work. But we looked at it as kind of an investment and part of our marketing education. And I don't think if we hadn't done those, I don't think that we would have found the things that did work for us. Sometimes, at least for me anyways, the struggle is a great learner. It's a great teacher, right? Mm-hmm. And so getting in there and trying some things and then either finding stuff that does work or, hey, this didn't work, but maybe if we get something that can help us out with this same marketing technique we're trying to do, maybe that's the right thing that we need to be doing right here. And then kind of see the pieces start to click in place. And that's been very helpful for us. So, don't be afraid to fail, try some new things, and try to learn from those. That's the biggest thing the takeaway that I have from our marketing experience anyway.
That's wonderful. Yeah, very sage advice. Don't be afraid to fail, because we all do, right? And that's part of learning. And marketing is always about tweaking and testing, right? Things aren't going to work, and you got to be okay with that. And then you learn from that, and then you find things that do work. And with time, things change too. Some things used to work, but now they don't work anymore, and that's just part of business, and that's just part of marketing. So wonderful advice there, Andy. And so congratulations on all your success there. Again, I think you've got a wonderful marketing mindset, how you've gone direct to the consumer and just, keep going at it. I know you're going to be so successful. in your clinic here in the years ahead. So thanks to you, and thanks to all of our audience out there. If you want to learn more, if you want to get more tips, marketing advice, definitely subscribe to our podcast. Listen to we've got a lot of great episodes there. Go to practicepromotions.net. We've got a ton of blogs and advice and video tips. Do our ultimate PT marketing funnel. That's a great strategy here for the years ahead and how to get your practice going more direct to consumer. And so for myself, Neil Trickett here, CEO of Practice Promotions, and Andy, thank you again for being on here. Here's to your success, and here's to all of our audience's success out there.
Neil, thanks for having me. And thank you for all your help over the years too.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Andy.
Take care.
Thanks again for joining us today. Be sure to check out practicepromotions.net/power. There, listeners can download over 9 checklists and free resources made to coach you through simple, proven marketing actions to increase new patients. So check it out today. That's practicepromotions.net/power, and I'll see you next time.